As promised, here's another video. It's a video with tips for working with multiple documents in Voyant tools. I'm probably going to move even faster in this video. Start by I'm going to try all the documents in Voyant tools, and I'll do them in chronological order. I don't exactly know the months of the publication of the 1788 documents, so I'll just add them one after another. But if we really wanted to get specific, I could do that. It would be interesting to look up. But I'll add the 1792 document last. It will be interesting when we use the terms radio. And click Reveal. I'm going to move through the series very quickly. These steps should all be familiar to you by now. I've applied the stop words globally, so they will also apply to the summary here and words in the entire corpus. In the entire corpus, that means the entire body of texts. So 5 texts in one visualization here. See, there's a little bit more detail in the summary, which has information about all of 5 of the texts, except when we go to most frequent words, because then the tool can't make a distinction between the 5 texts so easily, I don't think. In any case, I'm going to click on one of these terms. You'll notice in word trends, what we have are not 5, there's not one text divided into 5 equal parts, but rather an entry for each of the documents. So each point is not a point in a document, but points, so just a document. You can try clicking on one of these to see if the term slave comes up. It does come up in context, but notice this, it's only in context of the second document. If I click on this point, I'll get keywords in context for the first document, which happens to be Beckford. And if I click on the last one, I'll get keywords in context for Jonathan Edwards' 1792 pamphlet. In effect, word trends and keywords in context, you have to be aware, are doing something a little bit different. You can't get in word trends particularly the same kind of valuable information here. I'm going to try adding another term that I know is in the collection. I can't run more than one analysis at a time in word trends. So this tool, when I have more than one document, is not very good at comparing terms across a text. I am going to go back to the Cirrus, and I'm going to export the tool, these documents to a different tool, but using this data. And I'm going to choose bubble lines first. Copy the URL. I'll add it to another tab. Okay, this is more useful for multiple documents. Bubble lines works well for one document or multiple documents. I can clear terms. I can add a new term. And see if woman shows up, just out of curiosity. Seems not to. See if person shows up. Okay, in some of the texts, I'll try woman one more time. Less frequently. One thing we can do, if we want to find out a little bit more about these terms, is click the separate lines for terms, and you'll notice that there'll be a separate line for each text and each term in the text. Now, if one text, such as considerations, does not have one of the terms, woman, then there will be no line for it. And we can change the granularity up to 200. Okay. Just imagine the text being divided into 200 parts. You get the idea. Now I'm going to export this data even one more time. See if I can get this to work in collocate clusters, the links tool. I don't know how links works with 5 documents, but I'm going to try it. I'm experimenting, just as you are too. Internal server error. Let's see if I can just work past this. Got a list of the documents here. I'm going to see if I can add a term. See if it'll work. Oh, yes, it does. This is just in Ramsey. That can't be right. So what I'm going to do, I'll try one more term, see if it shows up. I know that can't be right, so I'm going to go to the documentation for Voyant tools and find the link for the links tool, or I can go to the workshop page in Sakai and find it there. I click on the links here. I get a window for Voyant tools and the links, and I'm going to add the 5 texts. I believe the new version that's being worked on in Voyant will allow you to insert multiple texts at one time. You can't do that in the current version, unfortunately. So this is our big test with links to see if 5 texts can work at once. I know that 2 works nicely. This looks like it's working. Aha. Now, you'll notice that, well, let's first apply the stop words. Remember that the largest words mean that they're the most frequent, and the lines indicate connections between words. Connections that are based on frequencies that are greater than chance. We've got different colors here, and each color represents a different text. The green text, when we hover over it, we'll find out what it is. It's Considerations, the anonymous text by a West India planter. The red text is Ramsey, and well, there's some overlap here too. Means there's 2 texts that at least share some significant use of the word slaves. And the orange text, Ramsey, John Newton. Okay, now let's click on some of these terms. Double click, they expand, the links expand. When we do this enough, we might find some overlap, yeah? Okay, trade, slave, and remember to get rid of terms that are cluttering the analysis for our purposes. Just simply right-click on or control-click on a term and remove it. Good. Okay, here I don't see any blue, so that would be Beckford, I believe. We can try expanding some of these and seeing if something will happen. And I wonder why the analysis isn't working. I would have to check the documentation to see if there's a limitation on the number of texts. This tool is useful when you use it with multiple texts at looking at the interrelationship between key concepts or other kinds of words. And when there is no set of lines or few lines connecting texts of different colors, that means there is a different conceptual world happening in each of the texts. So that's something you can think about. What is significant or not about these connections or lack of connections? A lack of connection could even also be something significant if you can provide a good reason for explaining why it is so. Finally, I'm going to go to the terms radio. I'm going to see if I can export from one tool to the other. I don't know how this will work, but terms radio. Worked nicely. We've got 5 texts now. They're links across the bottom. The last one is from 1792, and you'll notice that there are a series of terms along each column for each text, and when we hover over them, those words give you a sense of their frequency in each text. Not bad, huh? So isn't this interesting? Negroes changes in frequency. It's much more frequent a term in the anonymous West India planters text from 1788, and it's least common in John Newton's pamphlet. If we want to get rid of some of these terms, we can do a few things. I can click on the terms on the side here, and they'll disappear. They also disappear across the top column. The top column is meant to give you an overview of the variations in frequency across the texts. We can also add terms down here. I wonder if the word father will show up. Oh, okay. Don't seem to find it that way. One useful part of the tool is this words display. This is the number of terms that will show up in the analysis. Click 60 just for possibility. And here we've got many terms that show up above each of the texts, and we can hover over terms and see what kinds of distribution or frequency we get in each of the texts. So for example, slaves is very, very common in Ramsey's text, and okay. Question is, what do any of these things mean? But you've got some questions to ask. Why is there this variation? Some terms, oh good, seems common across all 5 texts. Is that significant? I don't know. You can not just hover over, but click one of these terms and it'll stay colored. Click another and click another. Can we click more than 3? Let's try. Colonies. Oh, yeah, good. What about property? Okay, yes. And Negroes here. Okay, you notice it gets a little bit cluttered after a while, but still, this is quite a cool tool. I'm going to let you play around with it on your own some more. Remember to try to find good reasons to think that the visualization that you're going to be exporting into the forum is not just some visualization that you quickly did at the last moment, but one that you thought about after doing some playing around and searching across many tools, the one that you think is really, really worth sharing because it gives a clue to something that we should pay attention to when we're reading the texts closely. So think, question, and try to puzzle through the texts with hypotheses as you use these tools. Have fun!